Hello, dear students. Today we will do another topic from the chapter Skin. We will be covering epidermis and dermis today. So let's start. The human skin is divided into two parts. One part is called as skin proper, which is further divided into epidermis and dermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer and the dermis is the inner layer. The epidermis is further divided into cornified layer or stratum corneum, granular layer or stratum granulosum, germinative layer or stratum germinativum, or it's also called as Malpighian layer or stratum Malpighiae. Now, in all these layers, we are calling them as stratum because epidermis is basically stratified epithelial tissue. The dermis, on the other hand, has got elastic fibers, blood vessels, nerves, sensory organs, etc. The second component of the human skin is the derivatives of skin. They develop from the epidermis but are located within the dermis. The derivatives of skin are hair, nails, mammary glands, the sweat glands, and the sebaceous glands. Together, both skin proper and the skin derivatives make the integumentary system of humans. Now, if you see the layers of human skin in this diagram, you see the epidermis, which is the outermost layer, and the dermis, which is the inner layer. And below these lies the layer of cells which store fat, that is the fat layer. It's also called as hypodermis. This fat acts like a shock absorbing cushion, provides insulation, and is also a source of energy in case energy requirement is there by the body. The epidermis, as I already told you, is stratified epithelium tissue. Therefore, the various layers are called as stratum. So we have stratum corneum as the outermost layer, stratum granulosum as the middle layer, and the stratum Malpighiae or stratum germinativum as the innermost layer of the epidermis. Now, the layers of skin epidermis, the stratum corneum or the cornified layer, it is piled up several layers of dead cells due to the protein keratin. Now, keratin makes it tough and it offers resistance to three things. Number one is the mechanical damage, any mechanical damage which occurs to the skin due to you hitting against a surface or actually something coming in contact with your body, or you may fall down. All those cases will be not able to harm your body because of the stratum corneum. Then the bacterial infection. Any bacteria, if they try to enter your skin, the stratum corneum acts like the first barrier, and loss of water by evaporation. The lower layers of skin and the muscles and the underlying tissue do not lose water because of the tough and fibrous protein called keratin. Then comes the stratum granulosum. Now, this is the granular layer, which is only 2 or 3 sublayers thick and gradually gives way to the third or the innermost layer. That innermost layer is the stratum Malpighiae or stratum germinativum. It's called as the Malpighian layer or the germinative layer. It is the innermost layer which is actively dividing. It has the pigment melanin, which imparts different skin pigmentation to all of us. We all have different skin colors because of the pigment melanin. Now, keratin, as I already told you, is a fibrous structural protein. It is found in the cornified layer. The keratin makes hair, nails, hooves, horns, antlers, and various other structures which are external and provide protection to the animal, provide some amount of strength to the animal. It is also found in silk, which is made by the silkworm. So the keratin is, in other words, the fibrous structural protein and is responsible for making all these parts of the integumentary system. Then comes the role of melanin in skin color. Now, we all have different skin color. We may be very fair to very dark. The skin color depends upon the concentration of melanin. If the melanin is concentrated in cells and is not spread, the skin color is light. But if the melanin is uniformly spread, then the skin color becomes dark. So our skin color basically is a manifestation of how concentrated the melanin is inside the skin. The melanin acts like an umbrella protecting our skin from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. When our body is exposed to sunlight, to excessive sunlight, there is some amount of tanning which takes place. But when the original conditions are reversed, the exposure is cut down, the skin coloration comes back to its normal form. For example, if you look at this girl, she was wearing goggles, so wherever her eyes were covered, no tanning has taken place, but the remaining part of her face is tanned. Whatever part of feet are covered with straps, no tanning takes place, but the remaining part of feet tans. Same way, this female has been exposed to extra sunlight, due to which, in fact, sunburns have taken place. The tanning is very severe. Tanning also takes place in dark skinned people. As you can see, this man, he was tying a dew rag on his head. So the part of his head which was covered is not tanned, but the remaining skin of his face and neck is tanned. Same goes with this man. Whatever part was covered with his shirt is not tanned, but the remaining arm is tanned, clearly indicating that tanning happens due to exposure of a body to extra or excessive sunlight. Then we have two skin conditions associated with the pigment melanin. The first one is called leukoderma or vitiligo. Now, in leukoderma, the skin pigmentation is lost in patches. The skin pigmentation may be lost from the feet, it may be lost from the back or the front, it may be lost from the hands, it may be lost from the face or any other body part. But the pigmentation is lost in patches. There is no known cause of leukoderma. The next skin defect which we have is albinism. Now, albinism is complete loss of pigmentation all over the body. Unlike leukoderma, where pigmentation is lost in patches, here there is complete loss of pigmentation. The skin appears pinkish due to underlying blood capillaries. It is a recessive trait caused due to inheritance. Now, for leukoderma or vitiligo, we don't know the cause. But for albinism, it is a recessive trait due to inheritance. That means it's transmitted from parents to the children. As you can see, this is a South African girl having a brother who's suffering from albinism. Now, albinism in itself is not a debilitating or a life-threatening disorder. It's simply loss of skin pigmentation. So these people cannot withstand sunlight. There is complete loss of pigmentation from the iris also, from the skin, from the hair, from eyelashes and eyebrows. Iris of the eye appears pinkish due to underlying blood capillaries. So these people cannot tolerate even a slight exposure to sunlight. So as you can see, these are all children which belong to otherwise an equatorial region but are suffering from albinism. So this disease is basically due to a recessive trait and caused due to inheritance. That means an albino couple will have albino children. Now the next part which you are going to study is the dermis. The dermis is the second layer of the skin after epidermis. It is the inner thick layer. It is basically made up of connective tissue. It is made up of elastic fibers. It is tough. It is flexible. It has blood vessels, nerve fibers, sensory receptors, hair follicles, sweat glands, etc. Now, its outer region next to the epidermis is projected into numerous projections here, which are called as dermal papillae. These dermal papillae bear blood vessels as well as sensory receptors and makes the skin an excellent sense organ. So all the receptors for heat, cold, pain, pressure, touch, they are all located in the dermal papillae. Skin of palms and soles. This is very thick dermis. The skin of palm and soles has to bear the entire weight of the body. The soles, especially of your feet, they bear the entire weight when you stand. So their dermis as well as the epidermis in these regions is very thick. So whether it's the palm or whether it's the soles, they have very thick both dermis as well as epidermis. In fact, the heel region has got the thickest epidermis also. So both these regions have got thick epidermis as well as thick dermis. The dermis is very thin in eyelids. Eyelids basically cover the eyes. The eyes are the most sensitive organ in the body. So they have to be protected by something which is very delicate. Therefore, the dermis over the eyes is extremely thin. So eyelids therefore have very thin dermis. Now, you have all used leather products, whether it's in shoes or bags or belts or jackets or whatever kind of garment. The leather which is obtained from the skin of animals is basically nothing but the dermis part. So whatever leather product you are obtaining is basically from the dermis part of the animal's skin. You might have come across people who read even though they are blind. Blind people basically read through their fingertips. They keep their hands onto a surface and touch the alphabets. The characters that they read, they're called as braille, and this is only possible because large number of sensory receptors are present on the fingertips, making them excellent points of sensory perception. So this is because large number of sensory receptors are found in the dermal papillae, enabling the blind to read braille characters. So you have various receptors present in the dermis, whether it is thermoreceptors, which perceive heat, whether it is Meissner's corpuscles, which perceive touch, whether it is nociceptors, which perceive sense of pain, or Pacinian corpuscles, which perceive pressure. All these receptors are located in the dermal papillae region of the dermis, making the dermis an excellent sense organ. So in other words, the skin is an excellent sense organ because of these receptors. So with this, we finish the part concerned with epidermis and dermis. Hope you have understood it all. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.